Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Oh, I didn't even bother getting dressed at all today. I didn't go out anywhere. I spent inside all day in a very contemplative mood again. Very quiet day. A couple of phone calls, but not too much. I put a bathrobe on just for this video. It's cooling down a little bit, but it's still Florida. It's warm here. Anyway, the title for today is Titles of Honor or Another Hierarchy of Control. Just before I was ready to record my last video, I received an email that shocked me. I contacted a friend to learn more in regard to the contents and have yet to get a response 20 plus hours later. I will not go into much detail in this video except to cover an issue I've wrestled with for some time now, an issue raised in that email. It's a concept that I believe is perceived in a totally different manner whether you have been raised in a traditional Asian culture or in a westernized culture somewhere else in the world. I'm talking about hierarchies and titles of honor. I have noticed that many teachers or gurus from the East like to put the title master in front of their name. I cringe at that, based on my cultural conditioning. I have shunned titles throughout my life, not wanting to be perceived as somehow better than anyone else. When I first read about Mr. Sino, referred to as the King of Kings, I was taken aback until I read the history of banking from the Asian perspective. Here is one of several available links, and I provide the link. I have come to appreciate the Asian perspective in that it would seem a title of honor to them has more to do with service to the people than rank or control over people. For a Westerner, this is a challenge. If possible, I'd like to attempt to reconcile the clash of perception in relation to this matter. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. Although I'd like to. I'd like to reconcile the entire world. I've long had a vision, as I've shared so many times, of establishing the kingdom of heaven on earth and creating a world together that works for everyone, preferably one where no one is left behind or left out. I also realize that we have lived, whether Eastern or Western culture, we've lived in a culture of control all over the world. It's been a long time since we've actually experienced a servant king. By that I mean a king or a ruler or a head of state that truly serves the people. The system, the matrix, just doesn't allow it. It is corrupted through and through. It's all fraud. We don't find integrity, whether it's religious leaders or political leaders. It makes no difference. We don't find a lot of integrity. And yet, in our generation, even in the past few years alone, since I've been doing these videos, and perhaps a little bit longer than that, but since 2011 for sure, there have been more and more people waking up to the reality that our world is controlled by people that seem insane. And yet I've long held out the possibility, perhaps even a probability, that if we're going to create a world that works for everybody, we're going to have to include some of those people coming over from the dark side, as it were, to the light side and changing their tune. as I have personally been involved in 2011 and 2012 with the Republic, a rebuilding, a restructuring of the United States government based on the Constitution and the documents provided by our founding fathers, which I still think are valid, despite the fact that people that do this word stuff, like like our friend Kate of Gaia, and other people that think that it's all about wording, and Santos Bonacci, and what's the other guy's name that's the attorney that does this whole restructuring of the language, and he writes in a way that doesn't even resonate, doesn't make sense, but that's using the proper, taking out all the fraud in the English language. And there is fraud in the English language. There's fraud in everything. Nothing has been untouched in our culture by the fraud that has dominated our world. It's a world of lies. It's literally a prison planet, a slave planet. And it doesn't matter if you're East or West. It doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters because it's all been corrupted. And yet, spirit has been moving in people for a long time. And there have been people that have stepped forward who have an honest desire to serve all of humanity. I believe that. I also realize that there are people that if given a title that they've never had before, that it will go to their head because they're still stuck in their ego, and they still have this idea that they need to control other people in order to feel fulfilled or safe or whatever the need is that has to be fulfilled. And they would be quickly abusive of any power given to them. Now, I've been following Swiss Indo as closely as I can, and from the email, it appears that certain people have been given certain titles. Okay. Some people have a problem with that. And I can understand why. All we've seen with hierarchies is abuse. That's all we've seen. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's a cliche that many of us are familiar with. And it seems to have been true throughout our history, throughout our lifetimes. And we have formed our perceptions and our opinions and our beliefs based on what we've experienced, based on what we've witnessed with our own eyes and experienced in our own lives. And so it's really, really hard to believe that somebody with authority would actually use their authority to accomplish good things. Now, you've also known, if you've been listening to me for any length of time, that I believe in building a bridge. I don't believe we can jump to the vision of where we're headed, of a moneyless society, a society of total peace on earth, a society of cooperation. I don't believe we can get there, to that dream, to that vision, overnight. I do believe it is a process which requires scaffolding or bridges or whatever temporary thing we need to get from where we've been to where we're going. Which is why I've said, okay, we're going to go from experiencing lack in regard to monetary wealth to an abundance of monetary wealth, so much so that we will realize, hey, we don't need money anymore. I don't believe that's going to happen in a few weeks or a few months, and it will probably take more than a few years to get everybody on board and understanding how we can create a system that no longer needs money. We also cannot go from having total repressive government to no government at all. I agree. I'm a libertarian. I'd like to live on a planet that everyone would be taken care of in the respect that no one would have to worry that someone is going to abuse them. That there is enough structure in place to prevent the abuse of one individual over another individual. But we're not there yet. And we're not going to get from where we've been to where we're going overnight, in the twinkling of an eye or the snap of a finger. There's no magic wand or magic bullet or magic pill that we can take that's going to bring us there. It's a process of waking up. I did not wake up all at once. I'm still evolving. I'm still letting go of preconceived ideas, including the idea that because somebody has a title, that they're necessarily going to use that title and that authority against me or against anyone else. And yet I've seen in interactions in church groups and other things where people allow authority to get to their head and they think they have the right to force other people into their perception and to force their point of view on others. I've probably done it myself, no doubt, because we're human. And this is part of what we've got to come to grips with individually, and then it has to carry forth into the collective. And we have to learn how to cooperate because we haven't learned how to cooperate. Most people are clueless about cooperation. We think it's all about being right. Spirit told me a long time ago when I was trying to figure out theologically which idea, which belief was right and which was wrong. And it was really, really clear as out of the light, I didn't hear words, I felt the words life, love, and laughter out of this light that illuminated the room in the middle of the night. Yes, it was in Melbourne, Florida, but it was before I even moved to Melbourne, Florida in 1983. It was when I had come down here to fast, and it was in the bedroom of my aunt and uncle. I know my uncle's deceased. I'm not sure if that aunt is deceased yet, but they've long moved away from that house, but it was here in Melbourne where I live now, before I moved here. But God was saying to me, Ron, it's not about who's right and who's wrong. It's about life, love, and laughter. And yesterday I talked in my video about celebration. That's the laughter part. That's the part where we get to enjoy the revelation of truth that finally sets us free, where we get to celebrate the curtailing of the domination system of control that the Matrix has imposed on our lives in so many ways. We get to move beyond the fraud and face truth. And even with facing truth, there's going to be people that are going to resist. I mean, I wish it wasn't so, but it's unrealistic to think that there aren't going to be people that don't want to get it, that still think that it's about putting their point of view in the dominant position and forcing others into that position. It's not. It's about cooperation, not control, not domination. It's not about exercising authority for the purpose of getting our own way. It's not about ego. It's about the union of the ego with the higher self in service to the whole. Because everything in spiritual awakening is about service to the whole. That's where we're moving. That's where we must go as a human family. And I don't want to leave anybody behind, and I'm not afraid at this point in time of people having titles, especially if they're based on meritocracy, on their actual desire to contribute in a positive manner to the whole, and not just trying to exercise authority or have their own way. I hope I'm helping enough people see that we can anchor on this planet the idea that I'm trying to present, the idea of reconciling even the dark workers, even like Kate of Gaia illustrated. And I listened to a long video interview with Vinnie Eastwood and him earlier today, and he emphasized again what Pope Francis has done in removing the corporate veil and removing the immunity from people that hold positions of power and positions of authority and have abused them. They're no longer going to be able to hide behind the corporate veil. That's huge because the Pope is a Jesuit, and the Jesuits have been the dark side of the Catholic Church, along with Opus Dei and other factions within the Catholic Church that have exercised this system of admiralty courts and the monetary system of fraud and corruption. They've been behind it. And I know it's a stretch for a lot of people to think that, okay, these people that have been part of the problem are now going to be part of the solution. That's a stretch, I think, for my friend Aristo. It's a stretch for a lot of people. How can we trust psychopaths to actually turn around? How can we believe that they're not just setting up another trap? Well, the truth of the matter is they can't set up another trap when the lights are on. Traps require darkness, and there's too much light being shed forth on this planet right now in 2013 of November 2013. There's too much light. There's too many people who are coming from a place of the heart, a place of love, a place of compassion, a place of forgiveness. There's too many people that get it. And it's not, I don't care what the Illuminati, the dark hats, try to do. Their plans aren't going to work because we're on a timeline that they do not control. They'd love to control it if they could, but they can't. That game is over. Why can't we get that through our heads? We're not playing by the same rules anymore. We can let go of those perceptions based on our fear and based on our experience of lack and our experience of being controlled and enslaved and lied to by people in positions of power. We're changing that to a servant leadership that will help guide humanity into the new age of spirit, into the kingdom of heaven manifested on the planet Earth. We are moving into that where we can move beyond the monetary system, beyond the need to slaughter animals and use technologies that damage things, that damage life itself. We can move beyond that. We can change. But we have to be willing to cooperate. We have to be willing to let go of the patterns of conditioning that have been imposed upon us and controlling us for so long. We have to move beyond that. And we're going to need as many people as possible to get on board. And if that means accepting a title or a role to be played temporarily till we can bring things into alignment and bring things into balance, it's not going to happen like that, folks. It won't. It's going to take a process, and we're going to have to learn to work together, or it won't work. But the Spirit is giving us grace to accomplish that very thing. And I see I've gone way over. It's 18, almost 19 minutes already. And so I need to wrap up because I like to keep it not a whole lot over 15 minutes if possible, but I usually go 16 or 17 minutes. But anyway, please hear me. Not with your ears, not with your mind, but with your heart. We can do this. We are the ones we've been waiting for. And it's not about having control over anybody. It's about honoring people that are willing to take the responsibility of serving the greater good and bringing into being the systems and the structures that are necessary to transition us from where we've been to where we're going, and to do it as peacefully and as quickly as it can possibly be done. Please consider what I've shared with you, and thank you for listening. Namaste.